What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Right now, as you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers just recently beat the Miami Dolphins, and a lot of Steelers fans have been celebrating, because they think that the Steelers, they have a better chance of making it into the playoffs, right? Because that AFC North this season is just it's just brutal. It's terrible. You got the Ravens. I think the Ravens. Who did we just beat? We just beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati is not good. Cleveland is not good. Pittsburgh, in my opinion, they not good. And so I still, even with this victory right here that the Steelers did, they got over the Dolphins. I still think that Mike Tomlin is probably on the hot seat, man. I think that his message, not that he has lost the locker room, but I just think that, sometimes people message gets stale. And if you've been at you've been with the Steelers for a while, I just think that it's probably a time for a change for Mike Tomlin and a change for the organization. I think they just need to split and just go their separate ways. You know, um, I even say the same thing about my Ravens. I think that John Harbaugh for the Ravens, I think it's time for him to split, and go his separate ways. And that's not saying that Mike Tomlin can't move on somewhere else and have success. You know, um, Andy Reid did it. Andy Reid was with the Eagles for a long time, and now look at Andy Reid with Kansas City. He went to Kansas City, and now he's having even more success, way more success in Kansas City than he did when he was at Philly. I always like Andy Reid. I always thought Andy Reid was a really good coach, right? Even at Philly, even if that was his last job, I just thought he was like one of the best coaches in the league. But now he went from being one of the best in the league to maybe one of the best in the history of the game, man. So that's good. And I think the same opportunities could possibly be for Mike Tomlin if he if they decide to split ways, him and the Steelers. But this victory that they recently got over the Dolphins, really to me is just like, in my opinion, it's just an opportunistic win. The Dolphins not really good, especially in cold weather. And so I was listening to uh Jason Whitlock, and he had the guy Scap on there, and they basically said the same thing, that don't read too much into this victory, you know, uh, because of who they beat and where they play them at, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to play the audio from Jason Whitlock show, him and Scat just talking about uh, the significance of beating the Miami Dolphins.
Game. Watch and see, Jason.
Because Mike McDaniel was so bad, I was impressed with Mike Tomlin last night. And because Aaron Rodgers was so good, I was impressed with Mike Tomlin last night. Scap, I'm going to let you attack and fire back. Am I crazy?
Yeah, stunning win last night, Jason. Stunning. They beat the juggernaut Miami Dolphins. It was about 12 degrees in that game last night. Tua has never won a game in his entire professional career where the kickoff temp is below 40. So the Dolphins, that was a shocking, stunning win last night, Jason. I got to give that to you. And Mike McDaniels, a guy who many thought wouldn't make it out of the first month with his job this season, is making Mike Tomlin look good. Great, stunning points by you. I must admit.
Aaron Rodgers went 23 of 27, and there were signs of hope that this offense has finally figured some things out, and Mike Tomlin gets no credit for that.
Well, while we're giving Tomlin credit, though, let's bring some context here. They're going to make the playoffs at 8-6 because their division is lousy. Lamar Jackson missed like 4 games. The Ravens have fallen off a cliff. Joe Burrow missed 9 or 10 games. The Bengals have fallen off a cliff. And then the other team in there are the Browns. Enough said with your boy Shador. That division stinks. So the reason the Steelers are going to get in the playoffs in the first place is
do
because
we have a bad connection? Do we have a bad connection? Because the question I asked, Scap, was
All right, so I agree with Scap, right? And just like I made the point earlier, I just think that the Steelers are going to get in there. I don't think that the Ravens. I think because of the Ravens, like the rest of the Ravens schedule is tougher than the Steelers schedule, right? And so Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers will probably go uh, get into the playoffs from the AFC North because the AFC North is just so it's weak. It's a weak little weak division, and nobody's playing good. So the only one team is going to come out of there, and that's probably going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? But just because they're coming out of the AFC North, in my opinion, don't really make them don't really say that they're really good, right? So, but let me get back to some more of what Jason Whitlock and Scap are talking about.
Aaron Rodgers looked really good last night, 23 or 27. They figured some things out offensively. Does Mike Tomlin get any credit for that? Now, go back into your rant, but at some point, answer that question. Go ahead.
Are you asking me if Mike Tomlin gets credit for a 4-time league MVP in Aaron Rodgers playing football at a high level? I'm going to have to say definitively no to that. I'm going to give Aaron Rodgers the credit for Aaron Rodgers. Again, 4-time league MVP Aaron Rodgers looking good last night. Let's see what Mikey T can do, the defensive genius that he is. Let's see how he can run that defense into the playoffs because, look, you said it. They're probably going to get the Bills. I would estimate they're going to play the Bills in the first game. And it's probably going to be, definitely going to be in Pittsburgh. If they luck out and get the Chargers, Tomlin might actually end this national nightmare of a decade winless streak in the playoffs because the Chargers are going to have to go to Pittsburgh despite, real quick sidebar rant right now, Jason, despite the fact, why do these teams have to go on the road to these middling teams that win these garbage divisions? It doesn't make any sense. The bum ownership have to stop being cowards and vote through. It was up for rules change. It was up for the vote with the rules committee. The ownership didn't ratify it, that your division win doesn't get you home field advantage because why should you be rewarded? Why is a team like the Bills or the Chargers going to have to go through a harder division, playing a harder schedule, and then go on the road in the playoffs to play in Pittsburgh? It makes no sense. Even with Tomlin getting that baked-in advantage, though, from being in his middling, lousy division, he's still likely going to get boat raced by the Buffalo Bills in that first.
They're going at him. But look, man, I just think that, AFC North is weak. And it is, in my opinion, unfair that the Chargers or the Bills will have to go and play the Steelers just because the Steelers they're probably going to win their conference, right? I'm sorry, win their division, right? And so that means that they're going to have a home game. But I mean, it is what it is. I think that the Bills are still going to beat them. I think the Chargers would beat them too. And as far as like how Aaron Rodgers played in that game, again, and not just Tua, I think the whole Miami team as a whole, all the Miami players as a whole are not really comfortable with playing in cold weather. They practice and they play most of their games in warm weather. So by the time, cold weather hit, like these guys are not really used to that, whereas though a lot of other teams are used to playing in that type of weather. So I'm not giving Aaron Rodgers a lot of credit either because he beat the Dolphins, just like Mike Tomlin coached against the Dolphins and beat Aaron Rodgers quarterback against the Dolphins and beat them. Even the Steelers defense looked really good that game, right? So I think, in my opinion, it's all about the weather, the temperature. Like Dolphins players just didn't look like they were comfortable in that game. Then on top of that, they have a losing record. So they didn't really have anything to play for. Not saying that they laid down or they quit, but that extra motivation definitely was not there because of the situation that they're in. Pittsburgh really needed this win to keep up with Baltimore because earlier that day, Baltimore had beat Cincinnati. So they really needed that. But yeah, I mean, if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm still not going to really get too excited over beating the Miami Dolphins. You at home, it was cold. I'm just not really going to get excited about that. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'll check y'all out in the next video. Peace.